My son is in the process of getting braces. He has an open bite and a tongue thrust, so he has kind of like a lisp, and we're hoping that if we can close the open bite, that he can really then retrain his tongue patterns. This was completely unintentionally self-inflicted. When he was 8 months old, he kind of crawled over to this basket on his floor where we had all of these blankets that people had gifted to us, and he just kind of like pulled one out and started chewing on it, sucking on it. I wish I would have been more firm about it, but I didn't push too hard because I didn't really see the consequences at the time. I didn't think it was a big deal. In fact, like both of my kids were amazing sleepers. They would go to bed very easily because they had that security thing with them. And so I didn't really mind because it made my life easier, but it was something that they found on their own to self-soothe. Both of them would just kind of find that blanket and calm themselves down. So fast forward a few years, I had this like aha moment where I was like, I took away his only way to calm himself down, but then I didn't teach him other ways to do it internally. That blanket was a way that he could bring himself out of whatever was making him feel bad and bring him to the present moment. And that's how people calm down. When I took that away, I didn't start filling in the gaps. And so when I realized that, I could have spent years or a long time swimming in guilt. I am the parent and I didn't teach this to him. And I'm sure I did that for a little bit. And I'm sure that I could have been like, oh, okay, I need to teach him other ways. I need to help him soothe down, like give him a toy or like something, some food, and I'm sure I did that. But then I realized I need to teach him how he's feeling so that he can come back down from that, which we call the red zone, to come from the red zone into the yellow zone, into the green zone. So I had to help him kind of reprogram his response to having those feelings, right? To stop looking externally for something to soothe and start solving that problem internally. It's hard to do. It's hard to learn after you've learned something else and another way to do it. It's hard to relearn. He has had to learn, and he is still very actively learning how to bring his overworking mind. He has a very active mind away from all of this and back to the present moment and what's actually happening. I'm not here to keep talking about my kids. I just want to teach you what I've learned from all of this and how it might apply to your journey that you're on today. When something is upsetting you, something's already happened and you're stewing on it and you're regurgitating it over and over. Maybe you're worried about something that might happen or you think it's going to happen. Maybe you've had a very long day and it's been emotionally taxing and all the things are happening and you are just flat exhausted. This is a state that you cannot stay in. Your brain won't let you stay there. It's not healthy. And so we seek some way to escape from that. So right now, what are you using to self-soothe? What is it that you're doing to soothe that in yourself? If it's food, it's just an easy tool. That's why so many people turn to it. It distracts you. You're not thinking about the future. You're not thinking about the past. You're not thinking about how tired you are. But the problem is that it also has consequence of being overfed. And if we're constantly self-soothing with food, it adds up. We are overfed, and there's the consequence of gaining weight. Or if you're trying to lose weight, you get stuck. You can't lose it. Therefore, it becomes absolutely necessary to develop other self-soothing techniques that can help you transition back into the present moment. So to be able to do that, you have to be able to identify and acknowledge that we even need something to soothe ourselves with. It's so habitual now. My kids weren't thinking, I'm feeling upset, I need to go get my blanket to calm down. It helped them one time, and then they remembered it, and then it just was a habit. It starts for one reason, it carries on for another. It just becomes habitual. So if something is helping you self-soothe, you can't just remove whatever it is without putting something in its place, because that's really cruel. That's asking somebody to just be like, not know what to do. And not that eating itself is destructive. Eating is wonderful. It fuels your body. But eating too much and eating in response to external stimuli, that's when it's destructive. And so we have to be able to pull ourselves from that. We take that out and we have to put something else in, because we still need to learn how to soothe ourselves. We have to be able to say, I'm feeling overwhelmed. There's so much to do all the time. How can I possibly get it done? All of that's happening right here. And we have to get it from here and we have to get it into the present, right? So instead of feeling overwhelmed and too much to do, I might as well eat. we could self-soothe a different way. Grab a piece of paper and just write it all down. Put down all the things that you have to do, and you just take one at a time. And then each time you finish, you cross it off your list. That is a great feeling. And if there's something that you don't get done on that list, you just turn the page and you put it on the next day. I know this sounds dumb, but it's very soothing to flip a page and write it down. The point is getting it out of up here and then reconnect to what's actually happening right here. Okay, here's the list. What can I do right now? How can I take some action in the present moment? If you're feeling stressed, you probably have a lot of adrenaline and cortisol just constantly circulating your body, and you're using food to calm that down. You will get this temporary relief because the dopamine, you will release dopamine when you seek out pleasurable foods, right? But it's temporary. Because until you get to the root of what's causing you all the stress, this is going to continue to be a vicious cycle, one where you just end up again being overfed. Instead of learning how to de-escalate the stress response with food, you can instead start seeking out a hormone release of something else called oxytocin. You get this from being close to people that you love. It's that love hormone, and you get it from physical touch. And it's actually the cure to the stress hormones. And then once you get out of the red, bring it back to the green, that's when we can start thinking rationally again. And we can talk through what's causing that stress. And we can rethink it. Do I need to change my perspective? Do I need to change my attitude towards something? Do I need to get out of a situation? I can't keep letting this happen. I can't be in stress and food. There's no solution happening. It's just a cycle. So what I'm trying to articulate here is that self-soothing is a tool that we use to bring ourselves from all this to the present, which we can recognize that everything's going to be okay. It takes us away from the racing thoughts that can cause us to be upset of what might happen or what already happened. We can't make rational decisions from the red zone. So what happens is we use food, we get back to the green zone, and then what happens? We think rationally, because we rationally know we didn't need that food for our goals. So if for years, if not your entire life, food has been what you use to self-soothe, it will be well worth your time to start creating new self-soothing routines, and it won't feel as good at first. It's not going to be familiar to you. It's not going to be as satisfying, as comfortable. It's not going to feel like home. It's not going to completely do the trick or scratch the itch. But if you stick to it, it will become reprogrammed into your brain. That will be your new habit loop. Instead of reaching for food, you reach to this, and that will feel like home. That will feel comfortable. So you need to work on finding yourself a new routine that helps you get into the present without sabotaging your goals. Pick something that is rooted in self-care versus self-sabotage. And you want it to feel like it's nourishing to you. Take a bubble bath. Listen to wonderful music. Music, there's so much research. Music releases something in you, and it can change your mood completely in such a short time. Or better yet, take a bubble bath while listening to the wonderful music. I've got all the things too, and I might be like, I'm about to explode on everybody. So I just say, hey, I need 5 minutes, and I go out to my happy place, and I literally will just sit there and be like, whew, this is nice. I got 5 minutes, just mine. Now, one of them probably pops their head out about minute 3, but I realize, okay, I'm good to go. I'm just saying, it's like that 5 minutes, like you give it to yourself, and you're like, I'm just going to do nothing for 5 minutes. It's amazing. You learn mindful meditation or breath work. And these are not anything weird like they sound, like sitting on a beach, like, that's not what mindful meditation is. It's retraining your brain, leave the thoughts, leave the past, and just focus on what is right now. And these are tools that you can pull out when you feel that you're up in your head, and it just brings you back to what's really happening and that all is okay. You can get a 15-second hug from your kid or your dog even, or your spouse, just 15 seconds. And then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to get my hug, and then I'm going to take my little vacation outside for 5 minutes or in your happy place. My children use their blankets to self-soothe. I personally used a blanket to self-soothe when I was little. It was this retreat to kind of calm ourselves down when we were feeling overstimulated. So learning a new way is really hard, but it is totally possible. So I want you to ask yourself this week, what is it that right now you're using to self-soothe? Is it productive or is it destructive? Because you can decondition that pattern that's destructive that you've learned. Sometimes it is very deeply ingrained. Like I said, this has been going on since you were a kid. but you can, because that's how the human brain works. It doesn't do us any good to be like, my parents did this. Guys, our parents meant well. We mean well as parents. We're not trying to actively mess up our kids. They weren't trying to do that. They were doing the best that they could. So it does no good to sit here and feel like a victim that our parents taught us you do differently. When you know more, you can do something different. So don't waste your energy on being upset with who helped you condition this pattern. It doesn't matter. Be aware of the pattern, set out to break the pattern. It's not going to be easy, but you can do it. But it all starts from paying attention to how you feel. And you have to learn to acknowledge the emotion and start developing different techniques to get yourself from the red to the green. This is what life is. I'm not saying you're never going to be in the red, but the better you get at this, the more you can catch yourself in the yellow. So it's just this concept of, oh, I'm noticing I'm in the yellow. I better get myself back to the green before all, breaks loose. So I'm not here today to say, do not use food to get from the red to the green or the yellow to the green. I mean, you can if you want to. But if you're looking to lose weight and you keep turning to food to self-soothe, it's going to make it really challenging because life is hard. What we're trying to teach you from this program is not that all we can change is our response to them. We're going to change things for you. We can't. I see people make guarantees for their programs all the time. They're like, money back guarantee. I'm like, I cannot guarantee that you're going to do what I tell you. That's not in my control. You got to let it go because you can't control that. You can only do your best and they can do their best. And you're trying to put your hands where they don't belong. You can encourage, you can support, you can give advice. We are all in control of ourselves and what we do with our actions. We make choices. So you still can leave this call and be like, screw you, Jenny. And that's okay. You can go do that. That's up to you. I'm just telling you, you're going to make it really hard on yourself to lose weight and keep it off if you never learn how to self-soothe in a different way. Self-soothing is something we all naturally do. We just naturally do it. So let's work on recognizing when we are using food to self-soothe and say, what else can I put in this place? How else can I soothe myself without food? Because food, there are consequences that we cannot change that. If this is something that's very deeply ingrained, it's very habitual, it's hard to break a habit when you are still doing the habit. This is why, if you're trying to quit smoking and you're still smoking some, it's very unlikely you're ever actually going to quit. What you have to remember is you cannot compare or look at other people like, well, they're doing this and they're doing that. Your kids were eating something different than you. Husband was eating something different than you, but you had this epiphany, like they're not trying to lose weight. We can scroll through social media and be like, well, look at her. She looks great. She's eating donuts. She's not trying to lose weight. You're trying to be on her chapter and she's on chapter 570 and maybe we're on chapter 12 and we keep repeating chapter 12 and we can't get away from chapter 12 because we're trying to live at chapter 567 because that girl over there is, Just go about your day and just notice what are your self-soothing mechanisms and what have they been, and give that some thought. That's the equivalent to you grabbing your blanket and curling up. So y'all go crush and we will see you. Bye.